This morning, we are discussing matters conflict of interest regarding the judiciary. After pronouncement on Sunday in Baringo during a political rally, President Uhuru Kenyatta, Deputy President William Ruto, and Senator Kipchumba Murkomen all launched an onslaught against the judiciary. The reason is a ruling that was made 2 days earlier, that's on Friday, that seemingly gave a win to NASA after the High Court annulled tender of printing presidential ballot papers awarded to a Dubai-based printing firm that is Al Ghurair. It was perceived as a win, although the winning points were fronted by Third Way Alliance headed by Ekuro Court. So yesterday there was a response also. We'll be playing it, the total response, a little bit later on, but I'm now joined by Sekou Owino, Head of Legal and Training right here at the Nation Media Group. Good morning, Sekou, and welcome, and thank you for joining us. Conflict of interest, yes. Very interesting concept, emanating from a concept that the sector or legal practitioners are yet to understand. So let's start with public participation. They're claiming it's something new to them, especially regarding to procurement. So before we talk about conflict of interest, let's talk about public participation in your mind. What is public participation and to what extent?
Okay, public participation is a concept that it's not new in governance and constitutional governance generally. It may be new for us in Kenya on account of the Constitution of 2010, where one of the national values is public participation and the right to participate in the governance of the country generally. And it basically inheres from the constitutional principle of sovereignty in the country emerging from the people, and therefore saying that any person who exercises authority of any kind granted by the Constitution or by any other law is effectively doing that on behalf of the people, and that therefore, as one of the checks against him is those actions, administrative action of any kind, or exercise of any power donated on account of public sovereignty, you are required to ensure that you give the public a chance, that is the citizenry, a chance to streamline whatever you do. So it's basically set as a principle of constitutional governance. Now, when it comes to this, in the decision on Friday, the court held that this is required to be undertaken even in the case of a public body that conducts something as important as election management, and that therefore one of the grounds on which it decided that the award of the tender ought to be annulled was that the public was not given an opportunity to comment or to provide their input on that process.
And that's the reason why I'm saying it's a foreign concept, especially on procurement. It's never been had before.
Yeah,
yes,
so in a sense,
that's what I want
in
to
Kenya,
say.
yes.
In Kenya, yes. Why do they feel that there is no procurement process that requires the public's input?
No, okay, the thing was, in particular, one of the things that we did here, that there are various means of undertaking procurement. You can undertake closed tendering, or you can advertise a tender, or whatever. The problem here was, and what seemed to have been worrying the court specifically, was the fact in which, the manner in which this tender was awarded, it was awarded as a single sourcing option, mainly because the IEBC was explaining that, look, we were running out of time. So had we gone through the full process of advertising and inviting tenders and evaluations and all those kinds, we probably would not have met the electoral deadline. But the court said, okay, then, even if you were to resort to that option, then, of single sourcing, you must still give the public a spout or an opportunity through which they make their input into that process.
But if the public agencies of the government will engage in public participation every time they're doing procurement, will never move, Sekou. Will never move. Tell me one on top of your head that the public has been involved in.
That, no, they actually say that, if you read it, the argument was that public participation is a constitutional requirement. That any person who's conducting anything that involves the public must do that. And so you must remember that we've had this already. It's a new concept for us. It's beginning to creep into governance. You remember we had it with regard to laws being passed. Now Parliament is required to give the public an opportunity. And they say it is not necessarily a question of listening and necessarily taking everything they say, but giving them an opportunity to raise questions, to provide input, and to give an opportunity for them to be heard. And is that a check mechanism?
Okay.
of exercise of power.
Okay, and because of this, and we'll be playing part of the story we had yesterday on public participation, how this has evolved, and because of this, the judiciary now has been seen to be put at a corner or between a rock and a hard place. And this I say because if you look at how the judiciary has been operating and the people who have been launching onslaughts against the judiciary, mostly it has been the opposition with the distrust and in the manner of rulings that they give out. But right now, it's the opposition looks as though it's winning and the government is on the other side, and yet the judiciary is right here in the middle, you know. And so the reason why I say hold on, a rock in the hard place is because this other side is now winning and they're a little comfortable. And the other side, which had been winning, which was very comfortable with it, now is accusing it. So the judiciary is between a rock and a hard place. Is that the case from where you sit?
I would not say it that way. I think the judiciary is where the Constitution meant it to be. In any given constitutional democracy, no judiciary, particularly in a nascent situation, you know, our Constitution is barely 7 years old. It's not even a decade. And so we are still going to litigate quite a lot of it. You know, by my physical count, I don't think even our Constitution has more than 200 articles. We have not even litigated 100 of them.
So we
still have a long way to go. We still have several surprises on what the Constitution means for us.
Okay.
My constitutional law teacher used to say that until each article of the Constitution is litigated and determined by the Supreme Court. He was giving the example of the United States in comparative constitution. At least 5 times, the United States did not consider its constitutional implementation to be over. So we are still very far away. We are still on that journey, and there are still going to be surprises in the interpretations.
Okay.
So in that sense, I do not think that the judiciary is in a hard place. It is where the Constitution meant it to be, that when we have disputes as to what the Constitution means, we go to the judiciary, and when they make a decision, we abide by it. And if there's an opportunity for appeal, we appeal it.
All right.